So this is the Valeton VLP-200. I've got the microphone and the guitar plugged into it. You're listening to it through the Mackie Showbox, and this is recording on SD card straight in so you can hear the raw input. Now, the slogan for the VLP-200 is double the inspiration, create without limits. The VLP-200 dares to be a little bit different by being two independent loopers. What I mean by that is that the two loopers, when they're in free mode, are exactly that. If you're into making drone music, this is perfect for you because the two loopers do not connect together. However, they do sort of sync together when the drums are playing. Now, you notice I've actually got the Showbox foot pedal right here, and the only reason for that is I've actually connected it into the looper because it's only a one button extension. So this is the drums. And that turns it on and off instead of bending down and pressing the tiny little button in between the volumes and the bigger buttons. And then the other thing, if you hold it down, it'll actually change the BPM, and it's really, really easy. As you can see from it, it's loop 1 and loop 2, and they are independent. So you either have a free mode or you have a serial mode. So we can go through a verse and a chorus, or we can have free where they're both playing together, but they're independent of each other. Everything on the back is jack input and output. However, the very first input you can change from a line to a mic. That does mean you need a jack to XLR connector for your microphone, but that means you can then plug a microphone and a guitar in just like we did in that demo. Now, the cool thing about this looper is it has smart doubling. What I mean by this is you can put a loop down, and then if you want to put something double the length, you can do that. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to put down a simple hi-hat noise, 1 bar. Now you see the way it flashes when you get back to the beginning of the loop, bar 1, beat 1. Now you can double tap to stop, and then it goes white. The other colors are red, blue, and yellow. Red is, of course, record, and then blue is overdub. Now that loop is 1 bar, but I want to create a kick and a snare noise. Just for this example, you could be playing guitar, you could be doing whatever you want, and I want to make sure that it's actually 2 bars. So if you do an overdub and you press the button before you get back to the beginning of the loop, it'll do that overdub, and that's fine. However, if you press the overdub button after bar 1, beat 1, it carries on. And what I mean by that is it will extend the length of the loop. There's our 1 bar. There's the beginning. Okay? And then double tap to stop. So as you saw there, we created a 1 bar hi-hat, we created a 2 bar kick and snare, and then those harmonies were actually 4 bars. So that's all on 1 loop. Now, the clever thing with the drums, it's a brand new high rate drum rhythm, but also it intelligently synchronizes with the track. Let me give you another example. So I'm going to actually then create a 1 bar beat, I'm going to create a 2 bar beat and a 4 bar beat, but I'm going to have the drums playing at the same time. So there's our drum beat. So now we don't get the fill there, we get it there. So this is really cool. 2, no fill, 3, 4, fill. There's 2. There's 3. 4. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. Still at the end. And you can just double tap to stop. We can stop the drums there. So these drums are really, really cool because as you create a really small loop and then you extend it, then the drums figure that out, which is really clever. Now this has undo and redo. So if I was to press this again, hold down, it's going to take that top bit off. Now, what I can then do is redo, then hold it down again, and then there is me soloing as a ba-ba-ba. So next we've got serial mode, which is like a verse and a chorus. Now I've switched the little switch over. You can see it's now flicking upwards. And then I'm going to use the same drum beat. And a 1, 2, 3. Now if I press loop 2 now, this is where it goes yellow and it's waiting. And we switch from one over to the other. Always in time. Beforehand, and it's waiting for the end of the loop. Go. And we can just double tap to stop. Now everything I've been doing up to right now is what's known as manual record. What that means is I'm just hitting it and pressing record, and it's up to me to make sure I get the timing right and that's all good. It also has a user-friendly auto record. So in this feature, all you need to do is hold down the memory save button, and what this will do is it'll change from manual record to auto record. Then what it means is it's going to be armed. So now it's going to be listening. It's going to be listening for a certain sound. So I'll press it. I won't say anything. And then I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And it'll auto record. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. So let me just do this now. You'll notice that the loop lights, it's red, but it's a dimmer red. And as soon as I have sound or talk, do you notice it just suddenly went bright red? You still have to press for the end of the loop though. Just be aware of that. And as soon as I have sound or talk, do you notice it just suddenly went bright? Now the only downside with this is if you've got the speaker right next to you and you've got a microphone and you do auto record, it's going to hear the rhythm, it's going to hear the track. So be very careful with that because you could be recording the rhythm track. What I would do in that scenario is if you're playing guitar, turn off the microphone or not have a microphone connected. To get out of automatic recording to manual recording, we just hold that button down. Now you can actually do this with your foot. If you hold it down, there we go, manual recording. You don't have to bend down to do that. Now, the other reason you might want to plug in a microphone as opposed to your guitar directly is if you're playing through an amp and you've mic'd that amp. You obviously might not want to be singing, maybe you're just playing guitar and you actually have a fantastic amp sound that you want to encapsulate in the looper. So of course you plug your guitar and everything you'd normally have into your amp first and then mic that up and then plug it into here. The VLP-200 uses 24-bit 48 Hz sampling rate. It has 99 memories for storing your projects, each of which can store up to 4 minutes of stereo recording at 24-bit 48 WAV for a total on the looper with the 99 memories of 7 hours. Now the information that's stored on each memory is each loop, loop 1 and loop 2, the selected drum pattern you've picked like the rock one or the dance one or the pop one, and then also the BPM. Now the nice little add-on for this is it has MIDI, and it has MIDI in and MIDI out. So you could either have it be dictated, so if you've got a drum machine, then it can figure out the MIDI coming in, or it can be the center, it could be the main device that dictates the BPM and send that out to something else like delays to enhance your performance. But right next door to the MIDI in and MIDI out, there's a headphone jack. So if you want to start practicing without plugging it into a PA, you can do this in the comfort of your own home without disturbing lots of people. It's nice to have a headphone jack on this. I quite like that. Now, as I said before, if you plug an external foot switch in, then what this does is you saw it before, it actually controls the drums. Turn it on and turn off. And if I hold it down, you'll then see that the BPM starts flashing. And we can change the BPM. And as we hold it down again and then press play, so that just helps you without having to bend down onto the floor. Now, as you can see, you've got independent volume control for both loop 1, loop 2, and the rhythm section. The other dial is to change the pattern, or if you've got the button pressed, the BPM. And the final dial on the right-hand side, just above loop 2, that is to change the 99 memories, but also to save to a memory as well. So I've just put a beat down, and I'm happy with it, and I want to save it. We just click that button once. And it's now asking you, where do you want to put that loop? Where do you want to put it of the 99 memories? We're going to put it on loop number 1. And that's it. It's done. It literally is that quick. You can literally go click, click, and it's just so quick. So if I move over now to a different memory, you can see that loop 2 doesn't have anything on it. And as we move back, you can see that that loop 1 is white, therefore indicating there's some kind of audio on there. There's a couple of things. First of all, the loops, really, you have to be quite tight if you're in the free mode. When you're in the free mode, it's not like using a 2-track looper that's connected together. They are completely independent. And you might get that shifting moment where you've pressed it just a little bit out, and therefore the second loop starts shifting in time, and you're no longer in sync. Now, I said you can press the drums independently. However, when you do record your first loop and you have the drums going, they have what's known as drum sync. So the drum machine synchronization is an automatic feature. It doesn't require any sort of activation. When you start recording what they call the bottom track, aka your first loop, while the drum machine is running, then the VLP-200 automatically synchronizes the phrases, meaning that the segments stay synchronized. It's only if you then turn it off, turn it on, and you go into the free mode, then you can, if you press it at the wrong moment, then it will play whenever you want it to. However, get it right and it'll play straight on. As you saw in the demo earlier on, you'll see that it plays really, really well. What I'd really like to see is a firmware update to this, because you can firmware update this and they have some great software to go with it. But I'd like to see a firmware update to this where you put it in a third mode. And I know they've got a switch between serial and free, but I'd like to see a third mode where the 2 loops actually come together. Not only the 2 loops, but also with the drums. Let me show you an example of how it could go horribly wrong when you're using free mode. Now, I'll stop all that because obviously those 3 things are completely independent. And that's actually what it says on the tin. That is what it's meant to do. They're meant to be completely free. So even though I could sing in time of the drums, I could play the drums at a completely different point in the loop and it would be so out. Yeah. Yeah. Now, that is free mode, and that is exactly what it's meant to do, but you need to be very careful with that. I like the fact that the drums figure out the length of the loop in its entirety, and then it changes the fill, like from the 2 bars to the 4 bars, it changes really, really well. If you start with the rhythm, what I've found is as long as you press the button pretty much on the 1, it stays where it is. So there must be some kind of algorithm in there that it's telling it to be on time. I haven't had it shift completely out. So there is something there where they kind of do keep sort of to time. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm an awesome loop artist. But if it's not that, then there is something that is keeping it sort of bang on time. I would like to see that third option where the drums, the loop 1, the loop 2 are all kind of tied together, but still have that flexibility to extend the overdubs. I think that's awesome. It would put it in contention with things like the Sheeran Looper Plus or the Boss RC500. Speaking of the Boss RC500, just for a second, one thing that does have that this one doesn't is independent input control. Now you've got independent volume control of the loops and the rhythms, but you can't control the input. I can't control the input of this microphone on the 500, albeit it's a bit of a weird volume control on the 500, but you've got a mic control. And of course, guitar you would control by the volume of your guitar anyway. And the other thing is down to the limitation of the build, the choice they use for the display. It's really bright, it's really lovely, but you can't put names on there. So you've got to remember what program 1 or program 33 is. You can't just rename it. There's no rename option. Having said that, the actual software for uploading and downloading your loops to it is brilliant, and it's really, really good. It's also the firmware updater. So I firmware updated it to the latest as soon as I got it. It was really, really easy. It's also got USB Type-C. It's not USB-B, it's not USB-A, it's Type-C, thank God. However, from what I can tell in the manual, it's just for the firmware updates. It doesn't act as an audio interface. I would like to see that. The other thing is the external control. You can plug in a 1-button external control, which I've said before controls the drums. It'd be nice if it is TRS inside for it to be able to control something else, maybe an all start stop. Now, to stop the loop, you need to double tap. So to double tap on both of them, I can reach it with my feet because it is quite a small looper, which is great. But that's quite hard. Let me just try it now. Yeah, I can do it, but you have to kind of control it. It'd be much nicer to have maybe this button here for all start stop. Certainly if you stop everything, you'll also notice that the drums are completely independent. So even if you stop loops, the drums keep going. I think it'd be nice to have an all start stop, which stops everything, including the rhythm section. That's really, really useful for if you're doing something creative where you just want everything to go together. That would be really nice. Surprisingly, I like the size. If you saw the photograph I put up a couple of days ago, I'll put a shot up now. Right next door to the RC500, it's really small, and that's a good thing because you don't want this thing overtaking your entire pedal board if you're going to add it to your arsenal. The dials are lovely, and there's no faders either. I don't like the faders on the RC500. I think they're just too cumbersome. I think they're easily knocked, where with the dials, these dials are nice and big, and the drum one and the main one are clickable. You could technically click it with your feet, but you could also nudge it as well, which is difficult. Another upside, headphone output. So technically what you could do if you wanted to record yourself and also do a live stream, you could then have the output of the main output to you for your speaker, and then if you haven't got a speaker that does USB-C or anything like that, then you could send a separate output from the headphone port out to your audio interface for live streaming. So then the sound would be the same. However, the simpler thing for what it's actually used for is you can just plug in headphones, and you can just plug in headphones and go figure out some loops. Does it work, without having to plug in an amp or a PA and annoying your neighbors? Now, the other thing that I like is the price. This thing comes in at half the recommended retail price of an RC500. It comes in at £119, and it's probably the best what you get for your money looper. It would add onto your pedal board without taking up too much space. It's also got MIDI as a nice little surprise on there, and all in all, it's a great little looper. If you're interested in picking one up, I've got links in the description box. It'll take you to 1 or 2 places to go and get it. If you do click on them, they are affiliated links that help out the channel, but no extra cost to you. I'd like to thank Valeton for sending this out to me. They sent the looper out to me. They have not seen this video beforehand. They're not paying for this review, and they also don't get to dictate any of what I've said. My thoughts are my own. Now, if you want to see the guitar that I'm currently using that you saw in the demo, then have a look at this video right here. And if you want to get into looping, no matter which looper you're using, I now have a course that is under £50, and that is that link right there. Go check it out.